Interesting. I didn't think that YouTube would let me go live like this. Uh, Let me see. Let me turn this up a little bit. Maybe get more volume out of it. I'm not sure what's happening here. Hmm. Hold on. No, I don't want that to be my output. Bear with me. That's my playback device. Test my microphone. Well, I don't know. It sounds like it might be too far away. And if I were to bring it closer, maybe that would help, huh? Hello. I mean, I ain't playing around with the microphone usage. I have the real deal. Yeah, that's loud. Probably too loud. Let me bang that down a bit. There we go. Cool. So, condenser mics, they're kind of tricky. All right. So, I have to set myself up to go live. It has been such a long time since I've wanted to battle Flat Earth because honestly, the arguments have become so utterly ridiculous that it's almost not worth it. Because after all, Flat Earthers really double down on their ridiculousness, and their Dunning Kruger is wildly outside of norm, just wild, right? So yeah, I mean, I like it. I like it. I guess I like to battle stupidity. I like to battle bad thinking. I like to bring it to light. The problem with the flat Earth isn't that people have free speech and should be able to do what they want. The problem with it is they think it's so great that they have all the answers and they have nothing, and it's very very painful to listen to because it comes at an affront to our personality. Obviously, we have to deal with their bullshit because they talk all this bullshit and nonsense and expect that to be like enough. They don't have any backup on it, and then they continue to chip away at us like we're stupid somehow. Hello, dumbass. I gotta tell you, you're wrong. But I don't want to be an asshole about it. It's just hard not to be because, quite frankly, you guys make it impossible to not be an asshole about it. You get angry, you tell us how stupid we are, and you never provide any data to back that up. Like, I'm okay with being stupid or being wrong. I can do that. You just have to provide something to me that I can look at current things and say, that's what we think, but it's wrong. And you have to be able to dispute that. You just don't. In fact, most of you spend a lot of time thinking that you have to do that. And it's sad because you do. Not because we require it, but because if you're going to persuade somebody, don't you think evidence is important? Maybe, possibly. You know, they're giving away free laundry detergent down at the Five and Dime today. The Five and Dime, probably something most of you don't even know about. But that kind of thing happens. However, you still want to verify. You don't want to just roll down to the Five and Dime and ask for your free shit without knowing for sure that it is, in fact, free. You want to call, maybe get some data, look at the information. Okay, yes, they're saying that it is free. Cool. Flat Earth will say, call Big Lots and say, I hear you're giving away free laundry baskets today for no reason. And Big Lots will say, yeah. And Flat Earthers will say, nah, they're not giving it away. They can't. That's not possible. They just don't understand. Data is the most important aspect of the entire argument. It's data. Data is what gets us to from point A to point B, from what's going on in the world to this is what's going on in the world. Yes. Very, very simple. Very easy to determine how we arrived at a flat or globe Earth, rather. Flat Earth. It's also easy to determine how we arrived at a flat Earth. Basically, it's stupidity. Maybe it's not even stupidity so much as it is laziness. Yeah, laziness. John Smith put forth a paper claiming that the Earth is round, and he was able to show that by providing observational research along with actual data from experimentation. And then Jose came along, not Jose J.G. Gonzalez, but if that's the Jose that you want to bring to mind, fair enough. He comes along and he says, "Nah, bro, that ain't right. That's wrong." Offers nothing in return as far as a rebuttal and expects you to just go, "Cool. Yeah, that's all good. It's perfect." What is our problem in society? I really don't know. But we need to back away from the flat earth for a minute and ask why we even think it's round to begin with. If you're a flat earther and you're just watching Eric Dubay or you're watching Mark Sargent, you're watching Math Powerland, any of these flat earthers, Math Powerland, but granted, Math Powerland did this as a joke, so most of you flat earthers are off on a tangent based on some dude who knows the earth is a globe, went off on a comedical tangent. Comedic, I don't care. Comedical, I'm making up words. Comedic tangent to create this flat earth movement somehow, and people adopted it because you sit around wondering how many times the government has lied to us, and this is just one more, right? It's a way to say, oh, we're lied to constantly. Open your eyes, wake up. I'm woke. Where are you? You're dumb because you believe what everybody tells you. But I have to, live in a world where what everybody tells me is also written down somewhere. And then if I really don't think that they're actually telling me the truth, I can, without a shadow of a doubt, go out and do it exactly the way they did it and let everybody know whether or not it worked or not. It's that simple. You know, Jeranism did it. He went out, threw a bunch of holes into some wood, made sure that you could see through them so that you knew for a damn fact that after a certain period of distance, they were level and even with each other. Couldn't see the light. Interesting. Uh, you prove it to yourselves, and then you continue to say, I just don't understand it. I would like some flat earther to come on here. Take over for a minute. You can talk. I'll make a hangouts. I don't know how we're doing live things these days. I've been out of it for a while, so I'll probably have to learn that again. Maybe Discord. I love it to hear you plot out the actual experiments that brought you to this absolute knowledge that the earth is flat. And then listen to actual logic as we pick apart your. I guarantee you, anything you put together, we can pick apart almost immediately as it's bullshit because we know that it doesn't match reality, but you will never believe it. But if there is a flat earther out there who honestly thinks that the flat Earth is flat, simply because people lied to you and you've never actually done the research, I want to hear from you because you need Jesus. Well, not specifically Jesus. I would never push it on you, but you need somebody to come along and guide you through the process to show you where knowledge comes from. It doesn't come from a lack of knowledge. It doesn't come from denial of it. It doesn't come from a simple rejection of logic. It comes from somebody going, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know where I'm at or what's around me, but here's what I see. So this must be the case. Let me find out. Set up an experiment. Turns out that wasn't right. Well, I guess the earth may not be flat. Let's look further. Continue on. Centuries later, all of the evidence has pointed to a flat earth is not even possible. And yet in 2020, we're in an area right now where there's angry ass soldiers in the flat earth community. They are just constantly yelling at globe earthers at how stupid we are. Ugh. That's why I drink. Straight up. There's no other question. There's no other reason why. I like alcohol, but not to the extent that the flat earthers make me want to drink it. We could get involved in that. Riley recently, Anthony Riley, that is, recently comes out with a video where he gets it all wrong. And of course, Anthony likes to double down once he gets it wrong and make sure that you are aware that he thinks you're an idiot. But Anthony Riley, you're sad. You're sad. You're sad, 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 sad. Sad. Why? Because you think you have knowledge and you talk, and then it comes out as, what the fuck are you talking about, Anthony? You're not smart. You're just desperate. If you really want to, and this is the best part about being human, you can convince yourself of anything with enough data, and you can manipulate that data or see the data however you want, interpret it the way you want to make yourself believe a lie. That's really easy to do. People do it all the time in relationships. You're in a crappy relationship with a cheating wife or cheating husband, but you tell yourself, that's not me. That's not my relationship. And come to find out your best friend is fucking your husband. Not cool. You don't see it coming, but you justify it and you turn a blind eye to it. Not only because typically you want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but we don't. Living in denial is a really, really good protection mechanism. Keeps us from having to believe that we are actually involved in our own failure somehow in any way. If we can deny everything, we don't ever have to be wrong or right. We can just be. Everything will leave us alone, and we'll live in a sunshiny, rainbowy, happy universe where nothing ever bad happens, and I'm never wrong about anything. I think that's where Anthony Riley lives. Sometimes though, he has like this Achilles heel where he likes to insult people because we like to explain to him over and over in many different ways. It's happened over and over how wrong he is and why we do it. He gets mad. He calls us idiots. Blah blah blah. But overall, I think Anthony Riley's a good bloke. Nathan Oakley, however, piece of shit. I'm gonna say that on a live stream on YouTube. There's only 3 viewers at the moment, which is standard for me. I don't care. We're not trying to be famous. But these guys are dumb. They're pieces of shit. Nathan Oakley particularly is an asshole. He's the only guy on the internet that invites people on his show for the sole purposes of trying to insult them in front of people for money. I mean, even Rush Limbaugh probably is embarrassed by this guy. I mean, come on. Nathan, gas pressure. He really sunk his teeth into that one, didn't he? Blue Marble Science goes, hey, look, this is what pressure looks like. And then all of a sudden, goalposts move, definitions change. Pretty soon, explanations are back to, well, we said container. The tube is a container. If you've been around a while, I don't have to really explain all that. If you haven't, you might want to look up some Blue Marble Science, shows how gas pressure works with butane in a tube, and see the rebuttals by Nathan Oakley. None other Nathan Oakley, because that's really he went all in on that. It's his kind of painted themselves into a corner with the whole gas pressure thing, because really gas pressure is it's easy to misunderstand. It makes sense that something inside of a sealed container can be pressurized because we have air compressors. We spray paint with them. We pressure wash houses with them. Yes, we can compress gas into a sealed container. We know how to do that. That's actually old technology. But saying that a vacuum can't exist next to, or pressure can't exist next to a vacuum is so ignorant of the actual observable evidence that we have in front of us, wherein there is no zero pressure next to pressure. It's actually a very slow fade off from 14 point whatever 7 psi all the way to zero. The higher you get away from Earth, the more. So there isn't a vacuum next to pressure. It's more like less pressure next to more pressure, and that's from foot to foot as you traverse away from the universe or the universe, the surface of the Earth, you get less pressure. It decreases because there's less molecules, and pressure does really amount to how much mass is being pressed upon a surface that can handle pressure. Without some sort of membrane, there is no way to determine pressure. It's just molecules moving in a direction. Once they pile onto something like the surface of the earth or your flesh, you can start to think about pressure, because really we're standing on earth, and all around us are molecules pressing down upon us, and everything is falling toward the center of the earth, and everything is getting compressed. Gas is not an exception. It's also getting compressed around us. It pushes on us, and as we go higher away from the earth, we're getting into less and less density as far as gas pressure goes. So we end up not being able to breathe as much because there's not as much oxygen. So it makes sense that as we go higher, there's less pressure. The further away you go, there has to become a point where it's almost nothing. It just makes sense. There's no way to argue that. If I can go up 1,000 feet and I can't breathe as well as on the surface of the earth, and I go up another 1,000 feet and it gets harder, and 1,000 feet, each 1,000 feet I go, it gets more and more difficult. That means that you can't fight it. Gas pressure reduces as you get away from the earth. So it isn't some negative pressure against pressure. It's just a sudden, or not sudden, a rather slow progression from 14 psi, pounds per square inch, to almost nothing. And I say almost nothing because it's like 17, negative 17 torr or something like that, which, by the way, is not negative pressure. It's just a negative exponent, which creates lots of decimal places. Just saying. So my chat is rather slow. I don't know if it's because like I'm using legacy YouTube stuff. Sometimes I use OBS. Tonight I'm using legacy. I don't see anyone in the chat, which is typically rare. I usually see somebody piping up about something. Been a while since I've done this with school and work and all that stuff. I've kind of been out of the loop. Throughout 2018, I was pretty prolific because I had time. Now I don't have as much time, so here I am streaming on an old legacy version, trying to get some people on here. Love to have these conversations. Keep the conversation going. Maybe get some arguments going. Arguments are good because arguments are just people disagreeing. And when you have disagreements, you can actually have discussions about what's actually happening. Problem with this particular argument, I find, is that flat earthers don't make arguments. They make problems. Although sometimes, you get this occasional flat earther who's like, I understand what you're saying. I'll give Larry Bear a shout out, a blast from my past, who has come up against me and hasn't really been successful, but has disappeared ever since we started talking about an asteroid going through a star. I think he said, oh, this guy, I gotta tell you, Larry Bear, nice enough, I guess, but then he also became a pretty big dick when we talked about how an asteroid flew through, what he said, through a star, when actually what happened is it flew very close to a star, went through its corona, and survived. And to him, that meant flat Earth, because everything else is bullshit if a huge piece of ice can go through a star. But again, it just denotes a clear misunderstanding of what science actually knows. I'm hearing myself on a relay. If I just mute myself over here. Okay. So I had this conversation with this guy, and we actually ended up making a prolific type of okay, cool. And this is what I'm looking for. Blind faith in the globe model? No, dude. No blind faith. No. This is what I'm talking about. Thank you for your comment. There's enough documentation to bury you and smother you to death. Is it blind? You can test it. Have you? No, you haven't. I guarantee you haven't, because of your comment. Your comment already shows that you haven't done any experimentation at all. You know what I'm saying? Right. How does sea curve, but every other body of water is level? Bodies of water are not level in the sense of this particular statement. Level to you means flat, but level, I wonder if I could. I probably could. Can I bring in? This is YouTube Live. I can't necessarily show my screen, can I? Maybe I should be using OBS. Think about a ball at the end of a string and whipping that ball around. The ball is going to continue on a path and it's always going to be the same distance from your hand, but it's not always in a straight line, right? So no matter how much you swing that ball, it's always going to be the same distance. The gravity of Earth, and I've done an equation on this to show you people how this works. The gravitation of Earth actually makes it possible for that amount of water to stay adhered to a ball such that it won't fly off into space and it'll be level because anywhere you're on the planet, you have how much? 3 feet of space, maybe. Actually, we take up probably 18 inches of space. Think about the circumference of Earth being 24,000 miles and how much space you actually take up and how much you can actually see. You put that into context, it's going to look flat and level to you. And that's just the way it is. We like things flat and level, but when it comes down to water, it stays level because gravity pulls it equally toward the center. Okay, and this is not an argument that actually proves either way, by the way, because with flat Earth, the water would be flat. With the globe Earth, it would look flat also because you just can't see far enough to see any curve in it. Here's the question though. If the Earth is flat and motionless, and the sea is just sitting there and finding its level, why is it so choppy? Why does it have waves? Why does it swell? Water is definitely seas, the oceans, they don't stay level, bro. They don't. They go up, they go down, they're wavy. I've never seen a flat and level sea in my entire life. I have seen wavy seas, which makes me wonder why is that body of water moving as it does? Is it wind? Because if that were the case, why aren't the trees moving as fast as they are? Because do you know how much pressure it takes to move that much water from wind? A lot. So you have an opportunity here to explain why, if you think that the earth is flat because of the seas, why do they not act like the earth is flat and station and motion or stationary and motionless? If the earth is flat and motionless and the seas are riding on them, there is no reason for them to swell and have waves. They should be completely calm and flaccid. Even if things go on top of them, like oceans or like fucking oceans. Boy, I've been drinking too much. Even if ships are sitting on the sea and floating through them, pushing the water, they don't. That doesn't explain how tsunamis happen. It doesn't explain how rogue waves happen, in spite of not having any kind of seismic waves like earthquakes. Your flat Earth model doesn't explain the seas at all. How can you not see any curve? How can you see curve? You could see curve like what? This way? Horizontal? You're in a spot where you can see. I'm going to put it to you this way. Let's talk about it. You've asked a question. I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to use actual data that we can look up right now and prove. First of all, I want you to think about the aperture of the eye. The eye can only really clearly make out any clear detail in a very small aperture of your vision. You might be able to look at my face and see my ugliness all at once in HD. But if you look over here and try to make out any detail of my hand while you're looking at my face, you won't see it. The eye doesn't have the ability to see detail in a large frame. As it gets farther away, the amount of detail that it can see in relation to what your eye can actually see is actually greater. But ultimately, you can only see X amount of distance with your peripheral. And since your peripheral isn't really clear, you're only able to see details as you turn. It's only a small amount. Okay, so considering that you can't see detail, there'd be no way to see curve on a horizontal plane over a great distance. Shorter distances, Absolutely. But when that particular curve is enough to go beyond your peripheral before you can see it, you won't be able to tell the difference between looking over there and there. So that's why you can't see it. Another reason why is that it's so stretched out, 24,000 miles, of which you can only see 3 miles. Let's pull up my calculator. I'll use my phone. I want to explain this to you in a way that mathematically makes sense to you. One plus one is two. Yeah, we agree that if you make $1,000 this month, $1,000 next month, you can buy $2,000 worth of stuff, considering you don't have any other bills. So if math is legitimate to you in that regard, it'll be legitimate to you in this regard. I'm gonna take 24,000. I'm gonna divide that. I'm gonna divide 3 by 24,000. Okay. So 0.0125 is the amount of actual area that you'd be able to see when looking forward on the horizon. 0.0125 miles. Okay. That's a thousandth or a hundredth of a mile. Considering that you can see a hundredth of a mile, let's go. No, I'm sorry, a hundredth of the. I'm wrong about the mile. It's a hundredth of the Earth's actual circumference. You can see 100th of it, which actually is probably ridiculous because 24,000 times 5,280. Let's go feet, and then that's four. Holy shit, that's not how that works. 24. I'm just gonna do it like this: 3 miles divided by 24,000. Sorry, that's a more accurate representation. 1 millionth of a mile. That's what you can see when you look out into the distance. So you're asking in that 1 millionth of that mile, or that 1 millionth of the Earth's circumference, why you can't see curve. I'm going to let you think about scale for a second. 1 millionth of that is all you can see. And then your clarification of your eye can't even make out that much of it. It's no. Why do you think you should be able to see curve? That's a better ask. That's a better question. Sure, if you can see curve ships going over the curve, not because you can see them actually going over in a curved arc, but if you think about what that means, it means that they're going over a curve away from you. You're never going to see that happen left to right, right? Because if they're going to stay the same distance from your eye, they're never going to go over that curve. Moving away from you, at some point, they're going to be at a point on Earth that nobody can see. Eventually, that's what happens. If you watch it the whole way, you can actually see it disappearing as though it's going over a hill. And it is in only one direction because they can only go in one direction at that point in time. They could go maybe southeast. Even if they do, you'll see the same effect. It'll just take a little bit of a different tack and it'll still disappear from the bottom up. But it will also go left as it's doing it. I'm sorry. This is very bad thinking that if you put these things together and try to make that out to be a flat earth, here's where we're at. On a flat earth, you should never see something disappear from the bottom up. It should only get smaller until you can no longer see it. We've seen people zoom back in and see ships that got out of their line of sight, but we've also seen the same video, similar video rather, where somebody zoomed back in over a ship that has gone over the horizon and it still goes over the horizon again after they zoom in. You can't zoom in certain things that go over the horizon, only things that are still actually this side of the horizon. But somehow somebody has allowed you to think that because you can zoom back in, they haven't fully gone over the horizon. The fact that you can see ships go over the horizon or over the curve only means that you're seeing them away from you because you couldn't see them go to the left or right over the curve from you because there's just not enough distance from eyesight for them to do so. I mean, especially if they're going to stay the same distance from you, they have to go away from you in order to go over the curve. If they don't go away from you, they will go over the curve, but you'll still be able to see them from top to bottom because they're not actually going farther away from you. And you don't get things don't get things don't get obstructed from bottom up because of compression. They get obstructed from bottom up because something's in the way. That's literally the only thing that happens. Light doesn't get misconstrued. Like it doesn't get like lost when it's on its way to your eye. Light travels through medium and it either curves or it goes straight depending on how dense that medium is. And if there are no obstructions out on that light, a star from a billion miles away will shine into your eyes at some point because those light rays are traveling toward you from wherever they are, and they will never be absorbed or anything if nothing is there to absorb or block them. So you'll always see that light. The same is true for vision. To see things, you actually have to have light bounce off of it first and then come into your eye. So as long as the light can hit that object and hit your eye, you'll be able to see it. In the essence of a curve, sometimes that light gets bent back over so you can see farther over that curve than you're supposed to because the light hits that object, bounces toward you, but maybe above your head in a trajectory that's actually above your head. And because of refraction bending it down, it actually comes back down like a curveball into your eye so you can see it over the curve. But anytime a ship goes away from you, inevitably it's going to go far enough away that it's going to be at an arc tangent enough that you can't see it anymore. But how should that look on a flat plane? Anytime you have a flat plane that you don't have any obstruction in your way, it's just going to get smaller. And if you've ever watched a car move away from you, then you'll notice that it doesn't take a lot of distance for a car to become suddenly half the size it looked like 5 minutes ago or 2 seconds ago when it was in front of your eyes as it passed you. It gets smaller and it happens rather quickly. So if you put that into context with the ships, they don't really get much smaller once they reach a certain point. They just start disappearing below the horizon. A mirage is the opposite of refraction. Okay, a mirage is where light is hitting an object and then it's like essentially going toward the earth under your vision like this. Refraction, the light would normally go above your head so you would be able to see it over the curve. And then it gets bent so that it can reach your eye. Whereas a mirage is that the heat is such that it pushes it down. And then I should say the angle of light is down and the heat is such that it lifts it back up. So it looks like it's actually a vision on the ground. That's a mirage. It looks like it's a mirror because the light is actually in a trajectory down toward under your eyes and then it gets refracted up or reflected if you want. That's what a mirage is. Light is not that mysterious. It travels in a straight line if there's nothing in its way, nothing to block it, nothing to absorb it, and nothing to bend it. Light does in fact bend. Prisms bend light. Prisms change the frequency of light. And the frequency of light, when it slows down, will be split off into different colors. Light contains all color. So in a prism, it slows down the different frequencies so that you can see the different colors of light. That's what a rainbow does. So light has a lot of data. We know about it. We know how it works. Anytime you slow light down, then it actually has a tendency to hit the curve downward. Speed it up, it goes up. It's that simple. But refraction isn't really like some sort of mysterious magical thing. There's a way to actually tell. So if we go back and look at Riley's recent video of two oil rigs with the horizon above them, which by the way, I don't believe. I think the horizon is right where it's supposed to be. Anyway, it isn't uncommon for us to see things over curves because of light refraction. Refraction that can easily be recreated in improvement. And anytime you can bend light, you already have a way to show that the light can go over a curve. And people keep wanting to say, let's see you demonstrate that.